Well, here we are for the next session, and one I'm pretty excited about, joined by three very familiar faces, Bobby Thompson, Paul Rivett and James Gornal. How you doing, guys?
Hi, Ben. Doing well, thanks. Sat in a field here in the middle of Suffolk.
Nice. Well, it looks nice and warm where you are. At least you've all got a cup of tea. Well, at least you can all keep warm from that. Weirdly enough, I was thinking actually over the years, I've actually interviewed all three of you. So I think we've got a couple of images we can quickly chuck up to show, which was in our Pro-Am annuals over the years. Which is pretty good. But let's start with you, Bobby. I mean, you've had one hell of a season this year. Started at the front row. You then had what can be only described as pretty horrific incident at Croft. But tell us how your season's gone.
I think I was over the moon with how we went, actually. The bit we did do, that is. Yeah, great. We set out to pick points out of everyone, and we did just that. Don't get me wrong, I would like to have a few more bits of silverware sitting on the side, but points is what we went for, and that's what we come home with.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about that incident. We've actually got a video of it here to kind of just to remind people. Could you kind of shine a light on a bit more what actually happened?
Well, coming out of Tower, the corner before, I actually, see Senna Proctor get overtaken around the outside, going into the S's by another driver. So I thought, I'm going to have some of that myself the next lap. And unfortunately, see it coming. And he had all the right to come across the track. And then before I knew it, I'm on the grass. And just trying to keep things in a straight line before I got to the farmer's field. And I didn't. By the time I get to the farmer's field, I'm entering it sideways, and it soon dug in, and it went over enough times for me to fortunately end my year quite short.
Yeah, definitely. So was that literally just to throw it in the bin situation then, or
it was a matter of I was trying to keep the thing in a straight line, really, and then at the last minute, like I say, it just started to go, and as soon as I know it dropped in sideways, I knew straight from there it was game over.
Yeah, I can imagine. So this year, I would say, last couple of years you've been racing in the BTCC. You've really shown your speed, and is that quite important to kind of show that to the rest of the drivers? Yeah,
I think you definitely get some respect from other drivers if you can stick with them at least, and it also helps. None of us are, got all the money to spend to go racing each year. It's more about showing the sponsors you can do it and letting them enjoy it, so you can, proceed on and do more years of BTCC.
Definitely. Well, not to dwell too much on that crash. I think the guys have got it now. If we just quickly play the video.
In 2 weeks' time. Now let's see if we can piece it all together. There he is, off in the background, and then the car just digs in. Over it goes.
Yeah, for some reason he was out on the right-hand side. Wow, that must have gone over completely 5 or 6 times. He was on the right-hand side he was off the track, wasn't he, before the turn-in to the Jim Clark S's. Yes. Whether he'd been forced off the road or what, I don't know. But yeah, the car hit the sort of dirt sideways on, just dug in and started flipping it over. Oh.
It's another example of how well built these cars are, how well they stand up to impacts. I know that in a spectacular accident like that, the energy is dissipated.
There we go. That's pretty horrendous then to witness that again, I suppose. You're trying to forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a good job of forgetting it at the moment with a few head problems I've got.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
But I've just gone through all the motions of it, really. The touring car doctors and the whole medical team's been absolutely mega. We was fighting to get back for the last round at Browns, but just wasn't quite ready yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, Paul, let's move on to you now. You're somebody who's been knocking on the door of the touring cars for quite a time, and you've certainly proven your speed over the years on the TOCA package. You've also won a couple of trophies. Obviously, we can see that from behind you. But also the 4-time Clio Cup champion. So talk to us about your first couple of races in the touring cars.
So it's been an amazing experience for me. I've absolutely loved it. I've really feel like I've sunk my teeth into it, and it's all now for me about trying to put together a deal and get back out there next year, because I'm hooked already. So I've been on the Toker package for over 20 years, starting Fiestas back in '99, but none of it compares to the touring cars itself. It's just, there's a reason it is the headline event there, and it's just amazing racing. All the way through. It's just the excitement, the pure, the pure intensity of everything, the professionalism of the teams. It's second to none with anything else that I've ever done. So I've really, really enjoyed it. I really have. I feel I've got to grips with the car fairly quickly. Qualifying at Brands was probably the highlight, qualifying 9th. So bits I need to practice on getting off the line. For anyone that saw it, I literally dropped about 5 or 6 places every time, and then spent the rest of the race, trying to fight my way back up there.
But you certainly did that.
Yeah. So, but the whole experience in general, it's just been fantastic. It really has. It felt really right to be there. I'm very unfortunate not to see James and Bobby out in the cars at the end of the year, because it's always a shame to see a driver not manage to make it to the end of the season, because it's been a tough year for everybody all round, and that did give me a chance to get in the car. So I really feel for these two guys, but at the same time, without that, I wouldn't have had a chance to get out there. So it's really opened my eyes to what the touring cars is all about. The fantastic welcome from everybody there. Probably feels like I should have been there a long time ago, but I always wanted to keep concentrating on the Clio Cup. If a Clio Cup budget would get me going for about a quarter of a season of touring cars. So that's why I've never managed to make the step before. And without doing too much racing this year, with our wonderful sponsors, TAC Assist, WD Recruitment, J Supplied 3D and Craftbot, we managed to get the deal together to find enough to come and do these last 2 rounds. So hopefully off the back of that, we'll keep the momentum going and see what sponsorship we can find for next year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, you're not just fast on 4 wheels, because you're also pretty quick on water as well, and truck racing. So you've certainly done a few bits over the years. Talk to us about that.
I've always, I'll race anything with an engine on, is what I've always said. So, the truck racing was something I got into. I had to go to Wayne Easton's truck. Well, actually, the first one I drove was Steve Powell's truck, who's reigning Division 2 champion from this year, back in probably the start of 2017, maybe 2016, something like that. And that was great fun. And then got an opportunity to race Wayne's truck at Snetterton in 2017. And it was just some of the most fun racing I've ever had. It was, a little bit more laid back than being on the Toker package. But the racing itself and driving something that big around the racetrack was just so different and such good fun. Everything back to being very manual for the driver. There's no driver aids to help you. You've got to get everything right as a driver in there. Your feet are constantly dancing around on the pedals. You're trying to build the boost up as you're coming through the corner with your left foot still on the brake, trying to hold it back and build that boost up and then release it at the right time. And so it's another, different art to learn. So I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and that will be next year's fallback plan. If we don't get the budget together to come and do the British touring cars next year, the fallback plan is to go back to truck racing, along with the Fun Cup that I race in with a friend of mine, Alex McLeod. So that's sort of the plan for next year. But yeah, the jet ski racing was great fun as well. That was something I got to do in 2012, which we managed to get a sponsorship deal off the back of the car racing. To try and the whole objective of it was to try and win a championship on land and on sea in the same year. And we were in with a good shot with the Clio Cup and only finished second in that year. So we didn't quite hit the mark on that one, but managed to win the CD Challenge Jet Ski Championship that year in the P1 Aquacross Championship. So that was amazing to go and do something completely different like that. And that was really tough as well. That was probably the toughest racing I've ever done. The races were half an hour plus a lap. And they're absolutely brutal, the jet skis. I've ridden motocross bikes and bits before, and they're fairly brutal. But the jet skis, no suspension. Every time that comes down and hits that water, it's a hard slap on the water every time. And the only way to stop yourself falling off is pull the throttle a little bit harder. So to get your brain into that gear, I think I'm going to have an accident, just squeeze the throttle a little bit more. It took me a few rounds to do that, but once I got the hang of it, it all went really well. And it's an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah, I can imagine. I certainly can. Well, James, Jiggy, let's go back to you. You have got a pretty impressive resume, haven't you? Really, you've been in Super One, British GT. You won the Mini Challenge, so you've certainly done a lot of things. I mean, there's an example of an interview we did with you, well, a fair few years ago now. But kind of talk us through what happened on with the Mini Challenge and how that got you into the touring cars.
Well, I raced in the Minis purely to learn front-wheel drive because I'd not driven a front-wheel drive car before that. And I wanted to race in the touring cars. As you mentioned, I won British GT. But the commercial side of British GT is not the same as the touring cars. The package is just immense. It's no doubt one of the reasons Paul spent so many years in the Clio Cup, because it all trickles down through those championships. So we did it to do that. Turns out I got on quite well with it. But of course, most of the cars in the touring cars are front wheel drive, hence that decision. And I figured if we want to get in, chance of getting a rear wheel drive car are very, very slim. So you need to expand your skill base, and that's where the Minis were, and that in itself is quite expensive. And so just throwing money at a team wasn't an option, which is why Dad and I decided to run it ourselves. We got an easy up, did it off the side of the motorhome with a trailer, which all started with the Compact Cup, which is of course in the picture you just showed there from our interview. Yeah, we figured it can't be much more complicated. Well, originally the BMW, we thought, can't be harder than a kart, which we used to run ourselves. Then the Mini can't be too much harder than a BMW, can it? It's a lot more involved though. I must say I had a lot more spare time in the day running that BMW Compact than when we ran the Mini.
Yeah, I can imagine. But you won that. You won the championship.
Yeah, I think I went into the season knowing that I didn't know front-wheel drive, and therefore thought, maybe a top 3, I'll be happy with that. I won the first race, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to win it now. If I can win this one, I can win the rest. And then that, because that was leading up purely to trying to get into touring cars, we had the momentum, and then we had to find a way, come hell or high water, to get in, which is then obviously we had the great opportunity with Trade Price Cars Racing and the race alongside Bobby, who was a very good teammate, I should say.
Cheers, mate.
That's it, really. That was the journey. So Minis were great. I really enjoyed the car, but it was only ever a stepping stone to get myself to the touring cars.
Okay, and then this year's been everyone's been hit hard, but unfortunately your season was cut short, and obviously things like hospitality, where a lot of the funding does come from. How much has that really hurt, this season? And do you feel that things with the vaccines and everything else coming into place, that should be back on to bring a healthy grid back for next year?
Well, the hospitality was key for us. But the sort of people that we were going to have coming to the tracks needed hospitality. And had we had hospitality, I would have seen the season out. But so that absolutely killed it for me. Yeah, which is a shame, but it is what it is. I've been in and out of motorsport so many times. After I was sponsored by Banks when I won British GT, and that was the year the Banks fell apart. So I went and got a proper job instead, because the environment was terrible, and the environment now is terrible too, obviously. And that's why this year we found some support during the year, but we expected to find more. We needed to find more, and we did have it lined up. But as I say, hospitality was required. I spoke to Alan Gow earlier in the year, and he thinks that no matter what happens, if we stay the same, he'll find a way to do some sort of hospitality next year. And I know a lot of the teams need it. It just oils the wheels for the whole championship. So it has to happen some way. I mean, we can do it sensibly. We've got hundreds of acres at these circuits, so we can all stand half a mile apart and still have a few thousand people in the track. So we need to just get on with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we're hoping very much for that, especially for events and things like that to happen, because particularly Motorsport Days Live's at a racetrack, and when you've got a 400-meter pit lane, you can certainly spread quite a few people out, across it. But what surprised you most about going from the Minis into the British touring car? Was there any significant change, or was everything all transferable skills into it?
Most of it was. The car was actually, I don't want to say easier to drive, but the Mini was on edge. That if you've got that thing on edge, you're fast. So that's another reason why it's so good for learning front wheel drive, because you had to have it about ready to throw you off the track. So you learn very quickly how to control the front wheel drive car. The touring car's more complicated to set up. Absolutely, you have far more setup options and things you can change. But I think beside having a very compact 2 days, that's quite challenging. I mean, if you Bobby's advice to me before I started was Saturday was crucial. And he's absolutely right. You've got to make the progression. If you don't qualify well, you're really struggling. And places like Thruxton were a great example where I hadn't been there for 12 years. Last time I went, it was when I won a race in British GT. I turned up and I might as well have never been there before. And I just had to set myself targets to try and get up to speed by the time we hit qualifying. Because, of course, if you haven't been on the track before in that car, you get to look at data after FP1. Then you get to look at it one more time, and that's it. You're into qualifying. That is not a lot of time to get yourself up to speed. I mean, Bobby would have found that in his first year. Paul, no doubt, this year. It's you got to be right on it, and you got to improve yourself as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you're nowhere because, of course, it's so close in the middle. 2 tenths can make 10 positions, and that's a great thing about the championship. It is so close, and I like that. I've always been in one make championships because it's where you have to get everything out of it to do well. So although touring cars isn't one make, it's bloody close to it.
No, it certainly sounds like it. Well, look, is there any this is kind of spill the beans moment, but I'm sure you all feel a little uncomfortable about asking it, but is there any particular drivers that you try to stay away from because you think they're a little bit unpredictable, or are there most that you give pretty much all of them equal leeway?
Well, there's one who's not very popular on the grid, and I smashed in the back of him 2 races in a row. So no one paid me to do it, and I'm very sorry to him for it. But I'm not saying any more. I think I'll do.
Yeah, fair enough. How about you, Bobby or Paul?
To be honest, I don't like most of them. They all have their days. I think it depends how much money they've got in the bank is how aggressive they drive. To be So I'll give them all a bit of a wide berth.
Bobby, that means we must drive like absolute pussies because we don't have any money in the bank.
I can, it doesn't look like it from where we're sitting. We've had a message from Dave Olcare. He's asked, Paul, what's your favourite trophy?
I've got a few, but I guess some of the ones, probably the one that's a bit different is actually the Equicross Championship. So I think the trophy I got for winning that is probably the one that stands out. But I do love the two 2002 and 2004 Clio Cup Championship trophies that you see sitting behind me. They've aged nicely with time, and they've got like a nice, multicoloured tarnish look to them. So they're probably my favourite two to look at.
I thought you might say the one when you beat me at Anglesey in the wet many years ago, but
that's around here somewhere.
It must be, probably tiny. Okay, well, look, the question I have to ask next, because we're coming towards the end of the session, what's kind of everyone's plans for next year? Bobby, if we start with you.
There's no reason for me to be going anywhere other than touring cars. It's the best platform in Europe, really. It's you can't beat it. I can't see myself going anywhere other than that. That's what I'm pushing for. It's just a matter of, are we allowed fans in next year, and are we allowed hospitality? Because I think that changes every single driver's on the grid perspective of where they're going to go.
Yep. Okay. And James, should we go with you?
Touring cars, my plan was always to try and stick in this championship for 20 years. Now it's been made a little bit more difficult. Even if I'm in it for 20 years, I'm still younger than, of course, some of the guys racing out there. So that's what I want to do. We're going to have to work really, really hard to make it happen. The prevailing wind is, of course, against everybody right now. So got to knuckle down.
Absolutely. And Paul, I guess the same.
Yeah, I'd love to be in touring cars. I really would. It's a large amount of money to find to go racing for the year, but fingers crossed I can pull it off. I'd love to be able to get a few seasons in a touring car before I start to need a Zimmer frame to get from the garage to the car.
Well, I've no doubt you will. Well, look, the best of luck to all of you boys. I really appreciate you being involved today. Hopefully, things will carry on for motorsport into next year. For everybody, whether it's the people starting off for motorsport or the elite with you guys. But thanks very much. Have have a great Christmas. Get lots of training in. Eat healthily, and then we'll see you on the other side. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cheers.
We'll go to an advert now, and we'll be back.
Performance Box Touch is not only a super accurate performance meter, it can also be used as a sophisticated predictive lap timer, using GPS rather than distance to allow you to accurately compare how your current lap time compares with your fastest, corner by corner. Quick and easy to install, it automatically identifies the circuit you are driving on and loads the relevant track maps from our extensive database. Using a performance box for the first time, VW Classic Championship racer Dan Rose talks us through how he benefited from the system's bright delta speed LEDs on track.
Yeah, a few times you'd go in and basically it would come up green, so you thought, yeah, and then mid-bend it was really sort of pushing on a bit, and you'd come out and you was red, so you had to get the balance right of going in and getting the green going in and the green coming out, so you knew that was the best way through there.
Using a lap timer mode, Dan was able to monitor how modifications to his car affected his performance on track.
Like changing the roll bars, we could see that we're a couple of seconds slower straight away and that certain areas it's not working. And then when you flick back, it's working and it shows up on the times and also in your sectors. So the predictive lap times really work.
Given a quick lesson on the Circuit Tools data analysis software to pinpoint exactly where time is being lost and then going through his data from the day, Dan said,
Looking back at the data now, we're a bit further on in the day. We can see that certain lines worked, certain lines didn't. Carrying a bit more speed into the first bend seems to have given us a bit more pace. And also we can look at different sectors where in a couple of laps I was quicker, but actually putting all those sectors together so that they work, which we've looked at, and then we'll go back out and have another go. But so far we've gained 2 or 3 seconds throughout the day, which has really worked well with us. So when we come back racing we should be up there.
Hi, Chris Dawes here. I've stepped away from the commentary box for a change and I'm in front of the camera because this time I'm talking about my business, Open Doors Training. Founded by myself as a project of passion because I felt so lucky that I get paid to do the things I do now. Commentating, hosting awards, voiceover artist, TV, radio, podcasts, live shows, you name it, all of those things are an absolute privilege. Especially when I came from someone who was paralysed by fear when I had to present at university and when I first went into business after graduating. But thankfully, I got accused of making IT entertaining when I was in my sales and marketing role. I know, not that easy, but I'm proud of that one. And that's what really was the trigger, enabled me to carry on with all the different things I do now. I want to now help others open doors that they may not yet know exist. And you never will know exist unless you put yourself in a position where you can be heard. Whether that's in business, in public sector, in sport, all of it is the same. If you're silent, no one will know you exist and how good you are at things. You've got to put yourself in a position where you open those doors, at least so that you can knock on the doors and they know you are there. So that is what we do here at Open Doors Training. It's not about creating blueprints of presenters or media darlings or whatever it may be. It's about unlocking you. Instead of being the contained version of you, we want to get 110% of you. You probably exaggerate it by 10%. I'm sure I'm not like this when I'm at home on the sofa. The wife would kill me. But it is about still being you. And that is what we work on within all of our training. So come on over, opendoorstraining.co.uk. Let's have a conversation to see how we may be able to assist you going into, hopefully, a better year in 2021.
So my name's Tom Ingram. I'm competing in the British Touring Car Championship with Team Toyota GB. So the BTCC is one of the toughest championships around. There's so many quick drivers. So to get the edge, you've got to be looking for any little millisecond of improvement. So whether that be from training hard at the gym or having the best kit around, you've got to find the edge any way possible. So the thing I love about the Walero products the most is the temperature regulation. And not only does it regulate my temperature and keep me cool when it's really hot, but when we're testing in the middle of winter, it keeps me warm as well. The feel of these is amazing. They're so soft, you could wear this to bed and be more than happy. So the lower under has really helped my performance and reduce the effects of the heat on my body and the heat fatigue that I'm finding that's where I'm finding a big improvement. So over the course of doesn't matter if I'm testing, it doesn't matter if I'm racing, I'm just not feeling quite as fatigued as I would have been without it.